Welcome to LCS Talks. This
supposed
doesn't
to say-
sound. This doesn't sound right.
This does not sound right.
I know,
It's supposed
right?
to be like this. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to LCS Talks.
My name is Kevin Merchandani, and I am here
As
special-
the host. The host.
Yeah, it's a special episode because I am the host
Correct.
of the LCS Talks podcast.
And I'm on the other side of the mic, which is really different.
It is really different,
Yeah.
and today is going to be a bit of a different conversation because the world is changing, and Langley Christian's also changing quite a bit.
I guess I should say who I am.
Yeah, you. Who are you again? If
I'm
we
Berkley Glazer, and
Oh.
I am the principal of Langley Christian Middle School for a
Yeah.
little while.
a little while. And
3 more weeks.
Yeah, you've been here for a long while.
A long while.
And we're having this opportunity to connect. You said right before this, why are we doing this
Yeah.
podcast? Because you're usually the host and I'm
Yes.
usually the host, and we
Yes.
usually get to talk to people. But today we're going to talk to Berkley. And the purpose of this podcast episode is to hear about how God has worked in and through your life, Berkley, because we can't send you off into retirement without a memorable opportunity to reflect. Because if we don't reflect, we don't learn,
Right.
we don't grow.
Yeah.
So how does that sound for a purpose? Does that get at what you were hoping for?
Well, I think it gets at what you were hoping for.
Yes.
But I'm going to participate so that I can
You're going to participate.
help you with what you're looking for.
There we go. Awesome. Well, really excited to introduce the panel today. We have Berkley Glazer, principal of the middle school, like you heard. Berkley has been here for 18 years, and he is retiring at the end of this year. And
Yep.
we not only want to honor the work that you've done, Berkley, but we want to hear how God has worked in your life and in this school community. And I think you have a particular perspective on what God has done that we love to listen to and explore. And so we're going to get to know you a
Okay.
bit more. We've heard of others' God stories. We're going to hear about your God story.
Okay.
And then we're going to just dive into what it has looked like to experience change in this community. And change
Right.
is a really challenging thing sometimes, but change often reminds us of where God has brought us from,
Yeah.
where he has showed up, and where he's calling us to. So we're going to go on a bit of that journey with you, and it'd be great just to hear and to share with our listeners
Okay.
a little bit about change in your own life and in the school community. So let's start with that first. Berkley, tell us your God story. Give us the, as you say, the Coles notes or in a
Coles
nutshell.
notes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, interesting. I've not shared my God story on the podcast before. So, interesting background. Multi-denominational, much like our school. My mom was Protestant. My dad's family was Catholic. And back in the day, they usually didn't marry, but they did. And so my dad, he wasn't actually born again Christian until after I was born. And so interesting journey. So I grew up like going to Catholic church, going to mass with my grandma and my dad, and then going to church with my mom. And I was like in Sunday school, so I was pretty young. And that's when my dad had a dramatic conversion where he accepted God as his personal savior, and he just changed his life. So back in the day, right, I was born in 1960, so, a while ago. So a dramatic conversion meant, like you did not participate in worldly things. So like no movie theaters, no bars, no pubs, that kind of thing. And so I grew up in a pretty strict, I think it would be considered a pretty strict environment.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, raised in a Christian family. But then many different denominations. We went to Pentecostal church, went to a Baptist church, went to a Mennonite Brethren church. Now we're in a community church.
Mm-hmm.
So just, experiencing, I was always a strong faith in God, and early conversion as a child, accepted God in my life, and just I held on to it. So I didn't have a real story of like abandoning God and going on a journey, as I've always had God in my life. And that really served me well because as I went on to university, my first degree is in the sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're in sciences in university, you got to study all the secular sciences, right? So I got to take zoology. Zoology is a big science of how living things are created, and man's attempt to explain that is Darwinian theory and evolution.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it just really reinforced God's creation to me. It was just a roadmap of God's engineering in life, and how it just reaffirmed to me of what I believed. and how God is just so miraculous in his creation of life. Because even when you're studying the Darwinian theories, there's never a proof, the missing link. You know, you've heard of that, right? So when you try to cross from birds to animals, from fish to land animals, it just doesn't work. They don't exist. Why? Because God created all of these organisms. So it was always like this futile attempt for man to explain what God designed. And then, of course, there was a part of my life where I had my plan versus God's plan. So really interesting is that battle between my will and God's will.
Yeah.
And, of course, God's will always works out. So miraculously, you know, I was in the sciences because I was studying to be a dentist. For some reason, I thought I'm going to be a dentist. They make lots of money. That's what I want to do, make lots of money. And so I went to university to be a dentist. And then all of a sudden God goes, no, you've built a glass house and I'm just going to smash that up.
Yeah.
And you're not getting into dentistry. And it's pretty, broken up. It's like, wow, what am I going to do with my life? And then all of a sudden God goes, well, you should be a teacher. And I go, teacher? Like, what the heck is a teacher? Like, this is God talking to me, my prayer life. And it's like, teaching? Really? And so, long story short, I'm trying to give you the Coles Notes, but, I've been around for a while.
Yeah,
so
and we've had many episodes where we haven't heard your God story, so.
Almost done.
Loose.
All right, so basically, after my degree, I went into education.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what do I got to lose? Because back then it was like 10 weeks, and I was already in the classroom. So I thought, okay, I'll do one semester and see what it's like. And I still remember to this day, I went to University of Alberta, and I remember getting my first practicum at Bonnie Doon Junior High in Edmonton, Alberta. And the day I walked into that classroom, and I just went, what is this? And it was like just a glorious, miraculous moment. And it was just like, no turning back. This is awesome. This is what I do for my life. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And take us to today, your faith. What does that currently look like for you in the uniqueness of how God has created Berkley, and help us to capture a bit of the essence of what faith looks like in your own life.
Okay, because that's actually, so this is part 2 then.
Yeah, part 2.
So as I got into the teaching career, got a job in the public system in Alberta, teaching sciences, because I'm a science math guy. Yeah. So I'm teaching science, and I'm in the classroom, and I'm teaching junior high in Alberta. That's grade 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah. And
I'm talking about the astronomy, for instance.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about how the planets are around the sun and how the Earth is this orb that's just perfectly placed. And I just couldn't say God did this. And so there was this void in me where I just couldn't talk about God, couldn't talk about my faith. If kids were needing counseling or if they were going through things, I couldn't pray with them. And there was this void in me. And so I didn't know about Christian education. Yeah. So I didn't, I grew up in northern British Columbia in the 60s, 70s, and there just wasn't Christian schools there. And if you think about Langley Christian, it started in 1955, but that was here in the valley. And so I think they're a little more advanced than us up north, right? So they're we're little years behind up in northern British Columbia. But I didn't know about Christian education. And then this is amazing God story. So my dad, he's passed now for 2 years, but my dad, big hockey player, played old timers hockey. And the principal of Pacific Christian School, John Messelink, still remember John, he's plays with dad hockey. And they're talking in the change room at an old timers hockey game. And John Messelink, my dad's a carpenter. He builds homes. He has no idea this is a God moment. He has no idea that my dad has a son who's a science teacher. So John's talking to dad and just going, I got to find a science teacher. And my dad looks at him and goes, oh, my boy is a science teacher. He goes, what? Long story short, I get hired at Pacific Christian School. I learn about Christian education. And it was just like another moment where it was just like, oh, I get to teach and I get to put my faith together. And I can talk about God and I can pray with kids. And that was just it. So I was 1989 when I started that journey in Christian education.
So you started at Pacific Christian School.
Yeah.
Went to Unity.
So Pacific Christian School, teaching high school science, math. And then about mid-90s, I was about 12 in my teaching career. And God kind of called me into the next step of like admin. So there was a chance to go over to the elementary school at Pacific Christian School and be assistant principal. And I said, okay, I wrote a letter to the board, said I'd like to try this for a year.
Yeah.
I just want to see what it's like.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, you're going to go over to the elementary as assistant principal. Little did I know that year, God worked again, and the principal resigned, about like in January, and then all of a sudden I'm acting principal, and it's just like just having to rely on other people as mentors for me, to learn about how to be a principal in a Christian school. So, yeah, that started that journey, and then so then I was there till 2001 in a Pacific Christian, and then I came over to start Unity Christian School because they needed somebody to run a high school, and it was opportunity to be part of something new and create a new culture. So I thought that'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. No kidding.
It's not easy. And then in 2007, the principalship came up here at Langley. And so this is where I've been.
Well, so you started here in 2007,
Yeah.
and you were hired on into a new middle school building contest.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about those early years of the middle school build and the culture and the community and the building itself and the place that we call now middle school, what that experience was like in the early years.
Yeah, for sure. At Langley Christian School in 2005, they built on to the high school, and that's where we're sitting right now, is in the new building expansion for the middle school. So they started in 2005, opened in 2006. And but that year they didn't have a principal. They just had an administrator, like an assistant principal, who reported to the high school principal, and they were in charge of the middle school. So Karen Brudenhill, awesome gal, great leadership and great vision for middle school. And so she started that year, and then, man, God was just working up people's lives in all different directions, and my life. And anyways, she got married and got taken away to the interior, and they needed a principal. So then that ad went out, and I applied. And so then I became the actual first principal of the middle school.
Yeah.
And that was for the start of September 2007.
Well, that was probably when we first met. I don't know if we had any early conversations, but you would have been principal for my brother and sister.
Yeah.
And thankfully, probably not me, because you
I knew about you.
You probably did know about me.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knew about Kevin.
Yeah,
you were just everywhere, doing everything.
Yeah.
You were like a ball of energy.
Yeah, it was a pretty amazing experience to be at LCS.
I see your
during those years.
boys now, Hayes, and they're like a spitting image of you, man, full of energy.
They are, for sure. So in 2007, you're there, new middle school principal. Walk us through the change that the school experienced from 2007 to present day 2025. How have you seen God work in some of those changes as well?
Oh, absolutely. So, we had like 2 classes of every grade. We weren't that big. The building had 14 rooms, designed pretty much for maybe a third class in every grade.
Yeah.
We had room. It felt like we had empty classrooms. We had space to move around. And during those years, also, if you look at the demographics of what was happening in the population of British Columbia, the school-age kids was going down. There's actually a downtrend in education, and there were not as many kids coming into the school system. But that's just for every school, like public school, and not for us, though. So in the private school, it was interesting that God's faithfulness, how every year we just slowly increase. So even though around us there was this demographic of schools losing kids, we were gaining, and we were growing. And so we just became a little bigger, until now we've got 4 classes of every grade. Every room's full. Every closet is full. There's just no room. And so hence, start a capital campaign, and we're building a brand new building, and it's going up right now as we talk.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, we've often in the last year or so characterized you as the Moses that doesn't get to go into the promised land. And then there's a new Joshua coming, Danny Nactigal.
Yeah.
And the story continues of God's faithfulness. Where have you seen God show up during those moments of God working in this school community and building and working his faithfulness continuously across these several generations in the middle school life?
Yeah, it's just amazing how the one thing when I got into administration in the early 90s, it was when you're principal, everything kind of falls on your shoulders. So you got to find staff, you got to make sure the school is good for all the kids, and you have a safe environment. And so, for me, as a principal, finding good people, and then God's just promise is that he'll take care of his things, and our school is one of his things. And so it just early in my career it became so clear that God provides good people, and then I had to really really trust and really believe that, because we went through some time of growth where we didn't have good teachers or good people available for us. And that was scary because I've got kids and then I don't have a class. I don't have an adult to put in the classroom. And but through it all, God always provided for us, and he always sent us good people. And I think that's one of my biggest learning in my career, is just to rely on God and just say, yeah, he's going to be faithful. He loves to give us good gifts. And before we know what we're doing, he knows what he's doing. And we just have to trust that.
Yeah. Teaching and learning changed a lot during your time. What are some key highlights that were big shifts or changes in how we do education that you experienced?
Oh, man, exactly. I'm so happy to be done my career now knowing that education is in a good place. If you think back, we were what was called an industrialized model of education, where we came out of the Henry Ford factory lineup, and how it was just like you're just going to do everything the same. Kids are going to be in rows. Teachers going to be in front of the classroom. We're going to deliver the knowledge. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have access to all this information. So it was just this really boring way to do education. An adult standing in the front of the room, conveying material to the kids writing notes, study, do tests, go on to the next grade. So it wasn't really dynamic or exciting. So then for us to go through a change, and of course the internet changed that when we have access to information, where no longer did the teacher have to convey that anymore. That knowledge is everywhere. We can access it. But the teacher rather becomes relational in terms of being able to help guide kids. And so we got away from the front of the classroom, and we're actually at the back of the classroom. And we're actually showing things on the front screen, and the kids are engaged in collaborating and working on projects together. And so as a teacher, it's way more interesting and exciting to be able to allow for collaboration and allow for group work, and just to guide the kids rather than just disseminating knowledge.
Yeah, it seems to me like from my Langley Christian experience, where it was about relationship and community, what's evolved is some of the structures that go into teaching and learning. Things like how do we help teachers to thrive? We put them into grade teams. We help them to work collaboratively. We also help them to grow across their lifespan, like instructional coaching. That was something that the middle school implemented very early, probably well before we even talked and called it instructional coaching. And there's also this sense of what Camp Middle could be like, this sense of going on an adventure, that learning is supposed to be experiential and related to the real world, and actually connecting kids into what God is doing outside of the classroom and in the broader world to develop a bigger global kind of perspective. How have you seen some of those changes impact your understanding of education and some of the work that you've done here with the middle school?
Yeah, definitely. We gave ourselves the acronym, Camp Middle School, because we're all about playing with the kids, loving on the kids, keeping the kids. And that's why we have a middle school, is because we're grades 6, 7, 8. We don't want our 8s going up to high school. They're not mature enough yet to handle that. They don't need the influence of the older kids on them quite yet. And they're still young enough to be able to exist, as a kid. And we try to keep that happen. So for us, just being able to do school outside the classroom as much as possible, like that whole experiential thing that you were talking about, so important, hands-on, doing things. And it's all about discovery of their gifts and talents, too, as how God created them to be.
Yeah.
So we really modeled the one unique thing that we do in middle school. At the time, we called it explorations, where for 90 minutes a week, we do something other than schoolwork. So it used to be something of a passion of a teacher, an interest, a hobby. But now, the new curriculum, we're allowed to do what's called applied design skills and technology. So the ministry has helped craft, like, here's some modules that you got to do. But it's a big variety of different things. It's everything from, like, now we do aviation, we do media, there's some foods, there's sewing, can't think of all the things, right? Woodworking, metalworking, right? So all these exciting things that kids can explore and develop sort of all their interests that are inside of them.
For sure. So talking about adventures, you love a great adventure. Give us your top one, maybe two adventures that you could think of while being a principal here in the middle school. And maybe one could be here in the middle school context, and one might be out in the world where you're helping kids to explore the outdoors, and you yourself just love seeing God show up in the outdoors.
Right. So the two things come to mind for me, and that's the grade 6 camp, Kakawa, and then the grade 8 salt strip. For this school here, I mean, I've done other things in my career at other schools, but let's talk about that right now. So Camp Kakawa, it's an amazing way for us as teachers and me as a principal to get to know the kids. So right the second week of September, we take them away for 2 nights and 3 days to Hope, to Camp Kakawa. And we go through all kinds of activities and designed games that allow teamwork and building, and we get to know them and play with them, and they get to know us. And it's my chance to memorize all their names. And then I get to know who they are before they're having to sit in my office in trouble. So I get to know them as a person first. Then with the grade 8s, being able to celebrate their 3 years of middle school by taking them on an adventure. We get to go to Victoria and sail on the tall ships that is created by the Salt Society, Sail and Leadership Training Group, and they're a Christian organization. And we get to live for 3 nights and 4 days on the boats together. So again, compact together, living in community, developing a relationship, and just allowing them to grow in their self-worth and giving confidence in their own abilities, being away from mom and dad. And both of those things are really good, to be away from mom and dad, to develop the confidence in who they are.
Yeah, we want kids to thrive confidently in faith and purpose. And a big part of that in middle is discovering that identity, that you're loved by God, you're a child of God, and that this is a place where you can thrive. So what's the best adventure you've been on outside of school?
So back in Alberta, when I taught there, I've always been involved in teaching outdoor education and hunter training. So I grew up a hunter. My dad's a hunter family. Love getting outdoors. And for me, recharging my battery is getting out in the bush and just being next to God. And now I go fishing. So I get on my boat and I'm on the ocean and I'm next to God. But back in Alberta, we actually, Alberta Fish and Wildlife had 2 camps where we could take kids to. And unfortunately, BC doesn't have that. So I wasn't able to do that here. But we could take the kids and teach them how to make a lean-to and sleep in sleeping bags outdoors and make fires, and then teach them how to shoot too. So we got to teach them how to shoot a .22 and a shotgun and do some survival skills. So yeah, it was pretty fun.
That's awesome. Well, there's some significant moments that have happened in the life of Langley Christian's middle school. And I'll ask you about kind of your favorite memories that come to mind over the last number of years. But I have here to share with you some memories from different staff members. And I'm going to play just a few excerpts from some of the things that they have shared. And so, it'll take a couple minutes and we'll listen in. And I invite you to go back down memory lane to think about not only the things that you've done, but who you've become, maybe as a result of the struggles, the joys, the surprises of God showing up in people and experiences. So let's listen into some of these here. Hopefully our listeners are able to hear these clearly. This is Brenda Wynn to start, and then we'll have a series of individuals that have shared some thoughts with you. Hopefully all good.
Hi, Berkley. It's Brenda. Oh, thinking about our best memories together, it's almost too hard to narrow it down. There are so many, and some of them are probably not fit for public consumption.
True.
But there are 2 things that come to mind. The first one is years ago when you covered my classes for a day so that I could go downtown Vancouver and your daughter Alicia so she could do my hair. She was in hair school and she needed a hair model.
Yes.
And I was a willing participant and you made it happen. And that was so fun. Another memory that comes to mind is this is probably my first couple of years working with you here. I remember I accidentally slept through an alarm, and you just came in and covered my class and told my class I was at a meeting. And then I came in all frantic and apologetic, and you were like, "Oh, sorry, your body must have just needed extra rest." And you had my back. And there are countless examples of how you have supported and encouraged and challenged me in the best ways possible. And what a joy it has been to work with you for the past 18 years.
Wow.
That's amazing. Any
Yeah.
responses to
Oh.
Brenda? 18 years, that's a long time to work
To
with
have
someone
to have
together.
a partner,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, Brenda's had my back all the time, and I had her back. And I think in leadership, it's important to surround yourself with people that help to compensate for your weaknesses. And so everything that I'm not, Brenda is. And that's why we've been a great team and been able to be successful, is because we help each other shine. And where I'm weak, she's strong, and where she's weak, I'm strong. And that's just been such a blessing.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we are grateful for Brenda as well too, and the work that she's done to survive and hopefully thrive in her work of partnering with you over the last 18 years. Here are some others, Berkley, and we'll just kind of listen
Okay.
in, and you can jump in and give your own commentary if these are accurate or not. But here we go.
Hi, Berkley. Bruce Worgland here. I want to tell you that during my 11 years in the middle school, what I appreciated most about your leadership is your open door. And my favorite memories, and still are, coming into your office when you're in there and sitting down in a chair and just talking about anything and everything. Probably my favorite Berkeleyism is we chase students. With that said, enjoy Ucluelet, enjoy framing your house this summer, enjoy fishing, and spending some great days with your wife and family. Thanks for all you did here.
Awesome.
Hey, Berkley. When I think of you, there's so many things I think about, but there's one memory that sticks out sometimes. I remember coming out of my office one time, and I look to my right as I walk past your office, and I see the little head of my son in your office.
Laura Carpenter.
Yeah.
I wonder what that was. And then later I asked you, like, what was that? And you're like, oh yeah, he punched a kid. You guys just had this great conversation about what to do in anger, and you just really coached him well, and I think you spoke into his soul, and you told him you weren't going to tell me about it, and I've known about it all this time, and I only confessed to him just the other day about this, and I think you really impacted him that day, and I think about how you have this amazing discernment with kids and with parents, and that's such a gift, and what a privilege it's been to learn from you in those ways about how do I engage with parents and engage with students, and I so often think about the ways I've seen you engage with kids and parents.
Awesome.
Hey, this is Trevor. The memory I'd like to share today goes all the way back to the mid-90s or so in Victoria at Pacific Christian School. I had arrived at PCS about halfway through grade 2, and it was quickly made known to me that there was this vice principal, Mr. Glazer, who was someone that we should stay clear of. And I also quickly learned about the famous red vein on the head that would appear when you were upset or disciplining students.
Mm-hmm.
And I was terrified of ever having to go to your office. And thankfully that never happened. I think the only time I ever went there was to buy a yo-yo from you, actually, at some point. But in the time since I've gotten to know you in the last almost 10 years or so, much better, I've really just appreciated how supportive you are and how you have our backs as a staff, and you are a problem solver, and you've helped me personally and professionally, and I really could not have asked for a better principal to begin my career working for and truly working with. So I wish you all the best in your retirement, and hope we can see you around at some point in the future.
Thanks,
Hi,
Trevor.
Berkley. This is David Jackson. It's truly been a privilege to work with you over these past few years. I've learned so much and gained valuable wisdom along the way. What's always stood out to me is the way you support, care for, and genuinely show up for your staff. Thank you for modeling that kind of leadership, not just to me, but to all of us. Wishing you all the best in your retirement.
Hey Berkley, it's Dave McVitie. I've just really deeply appreciated you as a leader and a mentor, and one of the greatest things was how many times I've watched you in meetings with students or parents or teachers bring others in to highlight your strengths and to shore up your weaknesses. And it's just been an incredible thing to watch you be aware of yourself and others as the leader that you are, as well as making time for every person, caring deeply for everybody, knowing their story, and always having their back. And so you have earned this retirement, been an incredible mentor and leader to so many, and I'm excited to see you rest and enjoy the rest of your days fishing and smelling the fresh ocean air.
Amen.
Thank you.
Hi Berkeley, it's Eric Bilinga. My favorite memory of you is sitting on the banks of the Letaba River in South Africa in 2017 watching the hippos play in the water. And you observed to me that all of God's creatures were created. There wasn't some other alien designer at work, and there's such complexity because no matter where you went in the world, you could see God's hand, the same Creator's hand in all those creatures, and I thought that was pretty cool. It was a magical moment, and I really cherished that time that we spent there. It was a hard 2 weeks.
It
but
was
a lot of fun. I wish you well in your retirement, and you're still going to get to enjoy God's creation. That's awesome.
Hi, Mr. Berkley. This is Malcolm Hayes. Congratulations on your retirement. My favorite memory of you was when you gave us the Nerf guns and I didn't have to clean up all the bullets.
Hey Dad, it's Brielle. I've had the privilege of being under your leadership as not only your daughter, but also your student. Being a teenager in high school, I know I wasn't the easiest student. I do have some vague memory of army crawling out of your classroom, making it to the front doors of the school, and then hearing your voice echo through the halls as you yelled my name. Then there were the many math classes where I endlessly asked, but why? Only for you to tell me, I didn't need to know why, I just needed to do the math. In all seriousness, having you as my science and math teacher, as well as my vice principal, I got to see how adults responded to your leadership and how my peers responded to you. I saw firsthand the difference you made in so many students' lives, and I knew that I didn't care what I was doing in life. I just hoped I would be able to make a difference in people's lives like you did. From elementary admin to high school teaching and admin, you finally found your place in middle school, and I am so happy that you got to end your career here at LCS. I love you, and I'm proud of all the work you've done. Now, on to retirement, fishing, and all the hobbies you can dream up.
Thank you, Mr. Berkley.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that you've impacted, Berkeley. It's pretty amazing. I think of my own experiences of Berkeley, of starting this podcast. We were just chatting.
Yeah.
It was September, and you and Dave McVitie were sitting in here in this office.
Yeah.
And that's why we're meeting here today, where it all started.
Okay. Full circle.
Coming full circle, where we were having a conversation about how do we steward and care for this community? How do we bring voice to topics that families care about? Because it matters for kids' identity and their work and their perspective and the learning that we share in common in this faith. And so you brought voice to one leader like me. And one where I've shared in the past, I never thought I would be able to find my voice, my leader voice. And so you had a big part of that. And just thinking of how the phone came out, and that started with, our voices being recorded on this little voice memo app.
Worst recording ever.
It was. And Dylan tried to do the best he could with that recording and didn't really salvage it. But yet, still probably one of our most listened to episodes, probably because of how it weighed deeply on our hearts to share with our families that we wanted partnership and we wanted relationship with them. and that we were going to struggle our way through some hard conversations, but we wanted to do so in a way that was transparent and that valued what kids were going through. And so how does that feel to have had an impact on one who sits beside you right now, those who've sat beside you in the past, those that you've led, and to sit there and to take that host place of listening to what they have shared with you?
Yeah, it's it's really humbling for sure. It's just a testament to God, really, because God uses your gifts and talents for a reason. And like I shared, my story, He was directing me all this time. It's like, no, you don't want to be a dentist. You need to be a principal. I didn't know that, but here's the journey, and here's what you got to do to get there, so you could, develop leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that it's been a passion of mine, is to bring up the next generation of leaders and to have an influence whenever I could.
Mm-hmm. And there's been moments where you've probably done a terrible job of that, that we don't have to go into and explore. And there's moments where God has worked even through your inabilities of bringing out your what's the wing of the 8 when it's it goes to anger and frustration. Maybe that's just what the 8 is.
It goes to the 2. In strength, you're a 2. You're a helper.
Oh, okay. So you become like me, and so in my weakness, I'm guessing I probably become like you.
Yes.
So there's probably moments where I've seen myself in you, and you probably have to see yourself in me. But there's a really important opportunity, I think, that we have to reflect. And so a couple just last questions for us to capture and to hold on to in terms of your reflections. What wisdom, what encouragement would you have for this community as you leave?
Yeah.
And as you continue to move on into not just retirement, but reassignment as you continue to do this work.
That's a good word. I like that, reassignment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. You gave me this question, so I thought a couple things. Our theme verse this year, John 15:5, right? I am the vine, you're the branches. Abide in me, and I in you, and you'll bear much fruit. And that's, I always took that to heart. It's like, yes, I got to be in God, God's got to be in me, and then fruit will be produced. And just God's faithfulness, we had a chance to talk about that. And just in this community, it's just been about, like living together in community. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. We grieve together, we cry together, but we also laugh together and share in the joy. And hopefully there's lots of joy that we will continue to experience. The big wisdom that I have for the community is, don't complain, get involved, support the school, support the teachers. We got a big capital campaign going right now. We need money, so support us there. Listen to your kids, but also listen to your kids with a grain of salt, because they're telling you half of the story. And, you got to call us here at school so we can fill in the other half of the story. And just to trust us, right? We know kids. We've been doing education for a long, long time, and we're good at it.
Yeah.
And we got your kids. We got their backs, and we're looking out for the best in them.
Yeah, and we're continuing to learn what it means to serve this community and grow in this changing time, right?
And so I got one more thing.
Okay.
And that is, this play on words, but love, eat, pray.
Oh.
So love your kids, eat with your kids, take time, make sure you do an evening dinner with them.
Yeah.
And then pray with your kids.
Oh, that's a better reordering. Maybe
right?
You need to write a sequel. I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
I haven't either.
I never imagined us talking about that movie. But
either, right?
I'm not endorsing that movie.
Live, eat, and pray.
Okay. Awesome. Berkley, what do you plan to do with retirement? We've heard fishing, hunting. Tell us a little bit about what's next in July onwards.
Yeah, one place that we love to be, and that's on the west coast of Vancouver Island. And we've bought property there. And my wife and I, we're going to build a little place. And that's where we're going to be. And you're going to come visit me and bring your kids. And I'm going to take you guys fishing. And we're just going to enjoy the west coast.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, Berkley, I wanted to leave you with a blessing, but like you, to take a play from your book, you would probably leave us with a blessing, and you'd probably gift us with something. And so I've got here just something that I hope can bless you in the work that you do ahead. It was, I'll bring it out here. You're gonna have to open it.
Oh,
so
my.
There's
something here.
There's something here.
And it's got 2 hands on it, Hayes and Merrick.
Yep, it's put together by 2 little boys.
Happy retirement, Mr. Berkley. We'll miss you from Merrick and Hayes. Oh, Merrick and Hayes. I don't know what you did here, but let's take a look. Oh, it's payback time. Oh, man.
So this
Look
gift
at
is
that.
This gift is for Arliss. This is called Target Practice.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of bullets
Yeah, I
that
see
go
that.
with this here.
Okay.
And I hope you have an amazing time cleaning up all the bullets in your new house.
Which I blessed you with
Which
one
you blessed me
Christmas.
with. That was an amazing Christmas gift.
Oh.
And there's been a number of times where I pop by, Merrick and I pop
Yeah.
by, Merrick, Hayes and I pop by just to say hi. And
Yeah.
we always steal your candy. And so I don't know if it's Deanne stocking your candy, but this is a little bit of a we owe you because coming by and visiting you, that's the main purpose. You've created a place where
Absolutely.
people want to connect with you. And
Awesome.
so, yeah, may this either fuel the rest of your year or be passed on to Danny so others can continue your
That might be a
work and
little old.
legacy.
We'll make sure we eat them up here pretty quick.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other last encouragement or things to share as we wrap up here, Berkley?
Just again, God's faithfulness. I leave the school knowing it's in good hands, and God's brought good leaders such as yourself to this place. So I'm happy to go.
Awesome. Well, Berkley, it's been a real joy to host this podcast with you here. We'll have to start a fishing on the island podcast of some sort.
We'll
and,
do one from the boat for sure.
Yeah, and the boat is called the
Principal.
Yeah, the Principal.
It is.
So from one principal ship to another.
Yeah.
And that's probably how we'll end here. So,
Okay.
Berkley, thank you so much for sharing about God's work in your life and for 18 years here at Langley Christian,
Yeah.
but in your wider career of many years of
Yeah.
faithfulness. And we just thank you so much for how you have shaped this community. I guess I get to do the farewell
You
and
do.
closure.
You
So
do.
it's been a great talk. We want to thank our listeners for their engagement, and we always love to hear back from you. If you have words of encouragement, of complaint, of challenge and wisdom to share with Berkley in his retirement, please
Yeah.
feel free to write back to us, podcast@langleychristian.com. And we are grateful for any sort of engagement and response.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for listening.